Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiaojun in Beijing, and today we reach the concluding part of our mini-series Traditional Chinese Weaponry. Official records state that more than 100 types of weapons are used in Chinese martial arts. They range from the bow and arrow, which makes it possible to attack the target from a great distance, to swords and daggers, cudgels and spears for fighting at close quarters. Traditionally, though, swords and daggers are regarded as the most important martial arts weapons. But history shows that weapons have had to adapt and change. A case in point is the mace developed to combat soldiers wearing armor.
The mace first appeared in China during the Sui dynasty, 2 dynasties prior to the Song dynasty. It is known that General Qin Qiong used 2 maces as his weapons. But during the Song dynasty, the mace was very commonly used. This Song dynasty era mace weighs 2.5 kilograms and is about 90 centimeters long. It is made of iron so that it will not break easily, and it features a beautiful handle. If the mace was a light weapon used to attack soldiers wearing suits of armor, then the hammer was a heavy weapon intended to kill an enemy instantly. The Peking opera 8 Hammers tells of Yue Fei's army battling Jin troops. According to the story, Yue Fei's son, Yue Yun, and 3 other generals of the Yue army used 8 hammers, known among Song soldiers as Gu Duo. A Gu Duo consists of a shaft and a polyhedric hammer. However, most of the Gu Duos available today have a round hammer. Although the Song dynasty went to great efforts to develop weapons, it imposed strict controls on their use outside of the military. Song laws barred civilians from possessing weapons other than double and single-edged swords, and anyone found guilty of possessing illegal weapons would be sentenced to 1.5 years of hard labor.
宋代禁兵之令非常之严，任何私人不得拥有武器，甚至民间的一些社火活动，你都要拿假的。所以我们现在有一个词叫银样蜡枪头，大家读过《西厢记》都知道，那个银样蜡枪头就是宋朝规定的，你要参加赛社活动、祭典活动、各种社会活动时，拿的各种仪仗兵器必须是银样蜡枪头的。你都不能拿一个真的兵器或者是仿真兵器。
Song officials were required to closely monitor the possession of weapons in order to safeguard the regime. However, according to the classic novel The Water Margin, they weren't able to prohibit certain heroes from possessing such weapons. One of those heroes was Hu Yanzhuo, known for using a pair of steel rods as weapons. A rod is like a club, and while a mace has edges and corners, a rod is round and smooth. But as a rod didn't have a sharp edge like a sword, a soldier had to be very strong indeed to use it effectively. One of Hu Yan's rods weighed 6 kilograms, and the other 6.5 kilograms. Another hero described in the water margin is Li Kui, who uses a battle axe. He is said to be as strong as an ox. The battle axe is another of the 18 most commonly used ancient heavy weapons. This highly lethal weapon has a thick back and a sharp cutting edge. In the water margin, Xu Ning is a general who uses barbed lances. Barbed lances originated from halberds, and they were made by turning the cutting edges of the halberd inwards. Although this was a change that first appeared in the Tang dynasty, barbed lances were used much more commonly in the Song dynasty. During the Song dynasty, Xu Ning destroyed the government's armoured cavalry using barbed lances, and after he and his Liangshan brothers were offered amnesty and enlistment, the government paid great attention to barbed lances and then issued them as standard military weapons. According to Outline of Military Science, there were 3 kinds of barbed lances. It is known that later, Yue Fei wiped out the cavalry of the state of Jin using these barbed lances. During the Song dynasty, the staff was widely used by civilians, partly because materials for making the staff could be readily found, and the weapon could be either long or short. The staff soon became a favourite among civilian martial arts practitioners. Although the staff was a simple weapon, it was effective because it could be used easily and in a great variety of ways. During the Song dynasty, the staff became the symbol of a constable catching an offender. In the water margin, both the policeman who escort Lin Chung to prison and supervisory official Wu Song carry the staff when they perform official duties. And although the water margin is a novel, what it tells us about the use of the staff in the Song dynasty is certainly accurate.
18般兵器，到时候你就说刀枪剑戟斧钺钩叉拐子流星什么，就说到那儿了。好。 那到底这种抓是一种什么样的东西呢？所谓抓，那就是这样抓，对不对？我们来看看。伸人。这个就是传说里的抓。记得古龙小说里边有一对神奇的兵器啊，一个青魔手，一个红魔手。青魔日哭，红魔夜哭，对不对？这个红魔一出，那是不得了了，血光成灾。那这呢，也就是传说里边的抓。抓呢有3爪，有5爪，前面呢是活动的，这是带着齿痕。
The Song dynasty, despite its superb weapons, was actually very weak militarily. Its forces, in constant fighting with various ethnic minorities, lost one battle after another. As a result, Song suffered the indignity of having to give up territory and pay indemnities.
赵匡胤是靠着因为掌握兵权而夺了后周的政权。 所以他很注意这个问题，所以宋代的将和军队是分开的，跟中国古代其他时候都不一样的，就是出兵时候临时兵将，而且很多将都是文官，所以这里边呢就出现很多军事制度方面的问题。这些问题和作战，它不完全是靠说你军队的装备的兵器非常精良就可以打胜仗。
The year 1555 saw battles between Ming troops and Japanese pirates in coastal areas of Zhejiang province. When Ming troops lost their first battle, it was due in part to the fact that the highlands in the area made it difficult to deploy troops. But to a greater extent, it was because Ming troops had inferior weapons.
兵器在这时候是决定性的作用。倭寇的刀长5尺，双手持握，大力劈砍，而且刀又好。明代的腰刀3尺，是单手的。首先，咱们举个最简单的例子，你说我双手有力还单手有力，对不对？再加上他的刀又确实这么好，那一劈下来的话，确实是，加上这个日本人他这个单兵的作战，他的刀法确实很出众，这个你不相信不行的。
Why was it that Japanese swords which originated in China had become so effective? After Chinese swords were introduced to Japan, the country had worked hard to improve them for hundreds of years. In Japan, each sword was made by an individual family specializing in sword making, whereas in the China of the Ming dynasty, swords were looked upon more as ordinary weapons. As a result, the swords used by Ming troops were cheap, poorly made, and used inferior steel. When a man by the name of Qi Jiguang began to take charge of the defense of Zhejiang in the year 1556, he enlisted soldiers from coastal areas, trained them under strict conditions, and founded the famous Qi army. In addition, he improved the weapons used by Ming troops so that they could better fight the Japanese pirates.
10个人分左右排列，前后4排，对不对？这样子前面呢，最前方是有一个人用一个长的大的盾，方盾，还有一个人用的是圆的藤牌，在旁边呢是这个队长也要站在第一排，但是大家有说队长必须要保护，如果队长死掉了，所有这个10个人全杀，对不对？那其后是什么呢？对不对？其后呢就是他们叫做第2排，叫做一种狼仙的一种兵器。
The Langxian was a special weapon made of bamboo. Qi Jiguang had his men cut 5-meter lengths of bamboo with their branches still attached, and he then had iron heads affixed to them. These weapons were known as Langxian spears, and they were just like long spears, and they could hit an enemy 5 meters away. When Japanese pirates came up against these Langxian spears, they had difficulty driving them back.
他要的只是把这个倭寇固定住。我相信这个倭寇刀法很好，他会用刀把这些竹子砍断，他不傻的。可在砍断的过程中，一拥而上，他被制住了。有用刀的，后边还有用矛的，甚至有用钉耙的，对不对？各种兵器一配合。那如果说倭寇呢从其他方向进攻呢，他这个阵还可以从1列变成2列，什么大3台阵、小3台阵。那实际上来说呢，戚继光这个呢，他这个阵法，我们想象一下，他跟现在反恐部队的一个反恐或者一个特种作战、一个特种作战小组是太合适了，完全是异曲同工之妙。
According to historical records, Qi Jiguang fought the Japanese pirates in southeast China for 10 years. In the year 1566, he finally wiped them out and became a national hero. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, Chinese martial arts developed quickly. A full range of martial arts techniques appeared, and a large number of different martial arts schools were founded. The most famous weapon of Shaolin Temple is the staff. The monks of Shaolin Temple began to use the staff from around the time martial arts appeared at the temple. As Shaolin Temple is Buddhist and its monks follow Buddhist teachings, iron weapons of war such as swords, spears and halberds were never used. The wooden staff was the only weapon deemed acceptable. Naturally, Shaolin Temple developed comprehensive skills in the use of this weapon. The Wudang school of martial arts, on the other hand, is built largely around the use of the sword. Wudang swordsmanship was first developed in the Ming Dynasty by the prominent Taoist Zhang Sanfeng on the basis of Taoist culture and ideology. Wudang swordsmanship is designed to conquer the unyielding with the yielding and restrict activity through quietness. The representative weapon of the Mei school of martial arts is the Mei dagger. Mei daggers were based on the design of hairpins, but developed into daggers wielded in pairs using both hands. Mei daggers are truly awesome weapons. In the year 1644, the Qing army conquered the parts of China that had up to that time not been brought under the empire's rule. The 8 banner soldiers of the Qing army excelled with the broadsword and spear in an era that saw traditional Chinese weapons reach an unprecedented level of excellence. However, after the Qing army conquered the rest of China, social disturbances became increasingly serious and anti-Qing societies sprung up from one end of the country to the other. These societies promoted martial arts as a means to fight against the Qing government, and it was said they commonly used hidden weapons.
Now, it's quite common in martial arts movies for the hero to produce a weapon out of thin air, with which he deals a fatal blow to his enemy. Surely, though, such hidden weapons never really existed. Or did they?
至于现在大量的被描写的民间武艺中间的暗器，我觉得有一些社会层次啊，或者某一些人物中间使用这种手段，比如袖剑啊等等，或者飞刀还有什么镖啊，那么这些都有，但是比例不大，更多的是文学作品中、小说中描写的大量的。
In works of fiction, the cruelest hidden martial arts weapon is the Xue Di Zi dart, which is depicted as a weapon used to kill from a long distance. But in reality, there never was such a weapon. There was, however, the Qian Kun ring, the hidden weapon that comes closest to the fictional Xue Di Zi dart. A Qian Kun ring weighs about 2 kilograms and is covered with thorny spikes. It is said that similar rings were used by Mongolian cavalrymen.
这民间武术家们也都遵守一定的游戏规则，就遵守一定的道德底线。用这种手段来伤人，恐怕不是中国武林的传统。只有一些所谓小说中描写的绿林人物那么他们用。
Hidden weapons don't appear in the list of the 18 most commonly used traditional martial arts weapons. However, it seems hidden weapons did to a certain extent become a part of traditional Chinese weapons. Historically, there were weapons such as hidden darts and flying cutters, but today none of them can be seen. This is Beijing Sports University, China's top sports university. Among the traditional weapons still being mastered here today are bows and arrows as used in ancient times. But we can also see China's oldest hidden weapon in use, the slingshot. Today they're no longer used as weapons, of course, but they do feature in martial arts performances. At one time in history, the slingshot was an effective hidden weapon. A slingshot is a hand-powered projectile weapon first developed for hunting. Unlike arrows, which make a whooshing sound as they fly through the air, the round projectile that flies from a slingshot travels quietly toward its target. As slingshot projectiles didn't announce they were on their way, they were often used in surprise attacks or for self-defense purposes. During the Qing dynasty, firearms took on an increasingly important role, and traditional Chinese weapons became less important in battle. As a result, many double and single-edged swords were diverted to the civilian sector, where they became important once again in martial arts. Today, these traditional Chinese weapons are favorites among collectors. This is the home of Huang Fujiang. Huang has collected several ancient Chinese weapons, but behind one rather ordinary-looking sword in Huang's collection is a truly extraordinary story. The sword in Huang's hand was an ordinary sword used by an officer in the last years of the Qing dynasty, but it bears two surprising words: kill demons.
"为什么会出现赤魔这一群？当时我也觉得很奇怪，最早也是出于只是跟朋友的争论。当然后来我就把这广贴在世界上发email嘛，有了这个网络，拉近了大家距离，说这个照片这样，你们能不能告诉我到底怎么回事？结果很有意思，是一个美国的相剑师。大家想不到吧？在美国现在这么先进的社会，还有人靠吃相剑，就是说帮你看剑，还有干这碗饭的，是一个美国人。当然，据说也许有华籍的血统之类的。他跟我说，他说您知不知道，在这个19世纪的时候，很多人把我们叫做鬼，叫我们叫魔，赤魔是驱魔斩鬼。实际上呢，中国人民是把这个所谓的这个帝国主义这些侵略者吧，称之为魔，称之为鬼。所以我说呢，这个赤魔呢是一把驱魔斩鬼之剑。
But this sword was a symbol of the weakness of traditional Chinese weapons in the later period of the Qing dynasty. Following the Opium War, many generals and soldiers of the Qing dynasty called foreign invaders demons, and they had the words "kill demons" inscribed on their swords. They then tried to use these swords to defeat the Westerners, but the swords were, of course, no match for Western firearms. In the end, traditional Chinese weapons that had been used for thousands of years had to give way to the more powerful firearms. The bronze swords of ancient China, the Wanshou broadswords of the Han Dynasty, and the swords manufactured during the reign of Qing Emperors Kangxi and Qianlong are among the very finest weapons produced in the ancient world. Ancient Chinese weapons have a long and glorious history. Although they aren't used in battle today, traditional Chinese weapons, especially double and single-edged swords, are still the favorite weapons of martial arts practitioners and collectors of ancient artifacts. Traditional Chinese weapons are an important part of traditional Chinese culture, and today they continue to enrich China's martial arts.
The recent Chinese box office hit Red Cliff featured many of the cult weapons that were used in the Three Kingdoms period. The film provoked a storm of interest in traditional Chinese weaponry, not only in China itself, but also around the world. In fact, the film has spawned a highly profitable business, making reproduction weapons. It's a sign of how the ancient weapons of China retain their romantic appeal. And thank you for staying with us on today's New Frontiers. I'm Ji Xiaojun from CCTV International. Goodbye.